In this video, I'm going to show you how to make rollers like CROSSY. Now, all the basses from this video are from my latest preset pack, FOGHORN Drum and Bass. Feel free to get that link in the description. And if you want to 100x your music, then there's a link to a free production workshop down below as well. So let's look at the structure of this track first. So we've got 18 bars here of intro, and then we've got another 18 bars of intro that then leads to the build up, and then we've got 18 bars of drop, and then another 18 bars of drop that's varied. And then what we can do with all this is, once it's all done, we can just simply copy it across like this, change up the breakdown, change up the second drop, and then we've got a full track complete. So we're going to start by looking at the drums, then we're going to look at the basses, then we're going to look at the vocals, then the instruments, then the effects. First of all, we need to pick a BPM, and I've just gone for 174 BPM, which is the most common used drum and bass BPM. And then what I've done is I've picked a key. I believe for this one I've gone for D minor, and basically how I've done that is I just chose the root note as D when I was creating the basses in my drop, which is the first thing I did. So now let's have a look at the drums. So I normally always start with the drop drums, and then I'll come back and make the intro drums. Let's look into these drop drums. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight 4 bars, and then we'll go through each section. So first of all, we've got the kick drum. If I just switch this to step mode, you'll see the kick drum is hitting every first beat and then every third beat, but moved halfway across like this. And we've got a low fuddy kick that's mixed with this high transient kick. Together they sound like this. CROSSY normally has really aggressive drums, so I thought I'd get this low fuddy one which sounds nice and then mix it in with this really high transient hitting sound, and then those combined together should create the perfect aggressive kick drum. Next we've got our clap. Now this is on the snare slot, just ignore that. I originally had a snare and then switched it to this clap, and this just hits every second beat and fourth beat and then repeats, and it sounds like this. Now let's have a look at the mix down for the kick and the clap. So the kick, you can see, kick 1 is on the first slot, kick 2 is on the second slot, and then they go into this kick group, which just has a blood overdrive on it. And then this goes into the drum bus, which has a Saturn on it, just on the default setting with the drive turned up to 31%, and then a Pro L on it where I can control the gain. So I can make them louder or quieter if I want whilst mixing. Just makes the mix down process a bit speedier. And then our clap, which is on the snare group by accident, has a Camel Crusher on it with British Clean setting on, and then Decapitator on just with the drive turned up on the default setting, just to get that really aggressive sounding clap. Next we have this hi-hat, which comes in between the 2 claps, so it comes on the third beat every single time. And then we have this additional hi-hat, which sounds like this, and this is hitting every single beat. And altogether it sounds like this. You can't really hear it, it's kind of in the background, but it does make a big difference. Next we want to add the groove. So what we've done here is we've focused on the third beat of each bar, because this is where it works well with the basses to create that groove. So if I just play it together so you can hear it, it sounds like this. And that adds that cool groove. And essentially what it is, if I zoom in on step mode in this third bar, you can see I've put a little percussion element here, like that, just in between the hi-hat and the kick. And then I found another percussion element here and put that in between the kick and the clap. And this just repeats every single bar. And then we found a couple of additional percussion elements here and added these in every bar. So you'll see here, there's one here and one here, one here and one here. So if we play it, and that's just a cool little effects. I thought it sounded pretty cool. This 4 bars is then duplicated, and then we've just added a variation on the last bar of the first 8 bars, and this is what's used in the build up before the drop happens. Essentially what this is it breaks, chopped up and then filtered in. So it's simply just a love filter with the cutoff automated, which you can do here. Really simple, and then a decapitator on it just to pump the sound for a bit. and then this happens every 8 bars. So essentially once this is done, I just duplicate it 4 times. So then once this is done, I then came to the intro where I simply copied this hi-hat from here across to here, but instead of it hitting on the 2nd and 4th beat, now it hits on the 1st and 3rd beat, and then I layered it with this hi-hat just because this one was a bit quiet on its own and it needed another one. So it sounds like this. And then this simply just duplicates all the way along until the last 4 bars before the drop, where we have our like pre-drop element. The only other thing I've added in is a crash with some delay on it. See? Delay bank. And this just hits very infrequently. So you can see twice and then 4 times here. And then in the pre-drop bit, I've added in a reverse crash. So I've just created a unique and then clicked this reverse button and then chopped it up to fit in like that. And that just matches in with the vocals, which you'll see later on. And then we just got our kick drum here, just the low fuddy one because it sounded a bit aggressive with this one here as well, just to help build up to that drop part. So that is the drums complete, and we've got them sounding pretty cool. If you're enjoying the video so far and you haven't yet, please smash that like button. It really helps out the channel. Now let's have a look at the basses. So like I said earlier, we just picked the root note, and the first bass is Foghorn 11 from the pack. It looks a little bit something like this if you want to copy it. So this goes to the matrix, you can see here, and it's just on the master tune button and then on 4 settings. So this just makes it go down in pitch slowly. Got the LFO1 on the levels and on the EQ and the filter here. And then we've got LFO3 on the sine shaper distortion element here. So feel free to copy this. And then all I did was trial and error. So put this bass in first and then, so the F, then the C sharp worked. So that was that first bar section. And then I wanted a foghorn in the second section. So I just added in a foghorn on D. And as you can see here, this is Foghorn 14 in the pack. And again, looks like this. So we've got analog and then BST, subby saw. And then we've got this LFO just whacked on the fins on max, creating that cool like down filter sound. And then we've got LFO3 on the reverb. And the effects like this. And then it simply just repeats itself. But on the second section, we've got a channel pitch on the foghorn. So you see here, I've automated this, put it up to 12th range, and then when it plays, you can see the pink thing will change here. And it goes up in pitch. It just sounds pretty cool. Adds some variation, so it's not really boring. And then these are just repeated pretty much until we have the variation at the end of the section here, which is just me trial and erroring some sounds again, which you can see. Basically just staying on the D and C sharp notes. They're very simple. We're only using 3 notes here. We're using D, F and C sharp. That's it. Because foghorn music like this mainly focuses on sound design rather than melodies. And then we added a little bit of a filter here just to match the vocals and keep it interesting. And then switched up the filter on the second section later on here, as you can see, just to keep it interesting. I've got this filter on here that's just muting this foghorn once the bar ends here, just because it was making some weird noises afterwards. So just mute it afterwards and solves that issue without having to go into the serum preset and fix it, basically. But then there is also some post-processing. So let me show you this post-processing for the basses. The first one is actually really simple. I've just boosted the low end because I don't have a sub on this. So I thought, let's just boost the low end just to make sure the low end sound is getting through in the serum preset itself. And then I've just got kickstart 2 on it, side chaining to the kick, and then a Pro L on it, just boosting some of the sounds. So what I do now with my basses is I actually just push them all pretty much to the limit on here. And then when they get sent to the bass bus, I just turn the bass bus down so it's quieter than the drums. And this works really well. I can just push all the basses along here So they're like maximum volume without distorting, obviously, and then turn the bass bus down, and all the basses sound the same and sound really good. And so does the sub as well, especially if you're combining a bass with a sub. It just helps to control all the sounds and get them the same volume. It's a really powerful technique that I've only just started using more recently over the last few weeks and months. And then we've got the second bass here, which actually does have quite a bit more post-processing on. You see the difference that makes, and we've basically just put a decapitator on with the drive up, then we've put an OTT on with the depth down and the upward up, and then we've got a Pro MB, which is like multi-band EQing basically, so just boosting the 775 range and the 6985 range, and then we've got an EQ just boosting the low again because there's no sub on it, as you can see again, and then we just got a sidechain, and then our Pro L boosting it quite a lot, get it up to the 0 dB volume, so we can then reduce it on here. The switch up, I've just changed the sound a little bit, so it sounds like this. But I might go and change that a bit more later on. That was just a quick idea. I think it sounds alright, but it's quite complicated because when you change the frequency of these basses, they can sometimes sound a bit different and a bit weird. Now let's look at the vocals. So this vocal is really simple. I actually found it, I think it was on Loop Masters, just found like this random pack, I think it was like a tenner or something, and I just thought why not, and it's not the best pack in the world, but it's alright, it does the job for this track. And originally what I wanted to do is have these ad-libs in the intro here, so it sounded a bit more full, and then have like a full vocal here, but there just wasn't enough in the pack to do that, so I just ended up having these one-shots in, and then a little bit before the drop, and then more in the drop. If I had more vocals to work with, then I'd normally just fill up this section with these ad-libs, then have like a full vocal in this bit. What I've done instead is just found these one shots and added a load of post-processing. Valhalla Room, and then flower vocals on the Start Me Up Dry preset, and then delay as well. So this is very simple, just coming in halfway between the first beat here for every single one shot, and then this is just dragged across to make it in time still. You'll see everyone is coming in there, and then we have our main vocal coming in just 2 bars before the drop. Kick back when selector fling that. And then I turn this right down because this first bit on the vocal is super loud and I can't be asked to compress it, so I just did it manually compressed it. Kick back when selector fling that. So here we have the pre-drop vocal, and then we just repeat it at the end of each 8 bars, and we switched it up here. Everything good, so me say everything grand. And really simple, the vocals for this one. A lot of people struggle to find vocals, even I do sometimes. You've just got to search the internet basically. So search websites like Loop Masters, search YouTube for sounds, get creative, and then of course you've got Splice as well. And if you search long enough on Splice, you'll eventually find something that's good. Takes a lot of time, but you do find stuff eventually. So now let's have a look at the intro and the instruments. So CROSSY doesn't really do that much with his intros. It's more like atmospheric, just getting you in the vibe of the big drop is coming. And that's what I've done with this. So I've added some atmospheres, and you can do this on any synth, but I've used Nexus for this. So what I basically do is find some presets and then either add some crazy post-process into them or try and like pick and select which sounds work together. So I've got this sound, and it's just playing a D and then just repeats basically. And then I found another sound here, which I then introduced in the next 16 bars, and this is sort of like the main melody. And it's basically just a brass with a load of reverb on it, capitator, saturation, and a Pro L. And then I did also sidechain it to the kick, because the kick comes in the build-up bit here. And there's quite a bit of low end on it, so I thought, why not? And this is just simply playing the F, because we're using the F in the drop, and then an E as well. Just thought it sounded pretty cool, this melody. And then it goes down to C here as well, just to keep it interesting, so it's not just D the whole time. So we've got 4 bars of this and then 4 bars of that. And then we've got this, which is just like some crazy pad on Nexus again. So yeah, I recommend using some sort of synth. You can try Serum for this, you can try Nexus, you can try any other synths you've got. that create cool pads or cool horns, or you can use Splice and find samples and then dissect them and put them in your track like that. Or of course you can use my sample pack. They've got a lot of sounds in as well. Speaking of, we've got one of the Atmos from my jump up pack, which sounds like this. And this is just very much in the background, layering these together to get this. And then all we do before the drop, when the 4 bars transition comes in, is we filter out all the sustained sounds. Because we don't want them playing whilst the drums come in, otherwise it sounds really messy. We want them to be completely silent just before this bit where the drums come in. It sounds really nice then. So now let's have a look at the effects. So we've just got some ambience in here basically. So this is just like some random noises that I've either found online or recorded myself. Just like going to like a busy place and hitting record, or going to like a forest and hitting record, and then you get all these cool sounds. And they normally fill up the track and make it sound more busy in the background. And then we've just got effects, down filters, and then this riser here. And you'll notice I don't actually have a riser in this bit because I don't think it needs it. It's a really interesting way of doing a build-up. Basically just a 4-bar build-up.
Bass, bass, bass. Kick back when selector fling that.
So everything stops.
Bass, bass, bass.
But the brass stays playing and the vocals come in.
Bass, bass. Kick back when selector fling that.
Maybe I could add in another riser here, but I've sort of already got a riser with this reverse crash. And that is pretty much everything done. If you've got any questions, of course, leave them down below in the comments and I'll answer every single one. Now let's listen to the final product.
Sister, sister, junglist, bass, bass, bass. Kick back when selector fling that. When selector fling that. Everything good, so me say everything grand. When selector fling that. Everything good, so me say everything grand.
Now that's just 2 of the presets used from the total of 50 presets in the Foghorn Serum preset pack, and I think it's a very reasonable price as well. So if you want to get that, feel free. It'd mean a lot and it would help support the channel. And of course, if you want to take your music production to the next level, there's a free music production workshop down below you can take completely free. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.